Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Hello, disruptors, and welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments, the podcast where we determine that your mindset is the key to your success and mastering them moment by moment, building a toolbox that helps you build a space for you to learn, grow, and glow in your life, career, and your purpose-grounded relationships. I'm your host, Dr. Alisa Whyte, your number one mindset disruptor, and today I have an amazing guest that I can't wait to introduce you to. But let's talk about something: fear, determination, resilience. Those three words define today's guest. Studies have shown that nearly 77% of professionals experience burnout. For many, it comes after years of chasing titles, checks, and approval. Listen, I've been there, guys. But what if real growth does not require you to grind yourself into the ground? My guest today knows exactly what it takes to redefine success. She grew up in Bogotá, Colombia, height of the Narco Civil War. At age 15, she moved to the USA speaking very little English. She is a South American beauty just like myself. I hang out with the best of them. Yet she graduated with honors and landed high profile leadership roles in New York City. Angelica, we welcome you to Mindset Mastery Moments. Tell us who you are in your own words, what you do, why you do it.
Great. I love it. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share all these things with your listeners, with the audience. And of course, as I need to remind myself why I've been in this journey, right?
Yes.
It's always great when you talk about it. It reminds you, gosh, I can't believe I've been there and where I'm going. But yes, now I started my business because of a layoff. Go figure. See, I've been laid
Tell me this. You sound like me.
Listen to this first. Listen to this. So I've been laid off twice in my career, and that changed my mindset. Speaking of, which is one of my favorite words, mindset, is the fact that I always thought in my mind, you just work hard. And if you prove yourself, right? Work, 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 work. And people will see how good you are and how strong you are and what you add to the table, and they will notice you and you will move up. And later in life, I learned that no, sometimes you get laid off and it has nothing to do with your performance. I was receiving really strong feedback and performance reviews. And then I realized that it didn't matter because our whole team was laid off. The second time I was laid off, there was two of us serving two different regions in leadership, and then they wanted one of us to serve the region. And I said, I'm going to walk away. You could have it, my friend, because that was just not what I wanted anymore, right? If that's what's
Yeah.
But the point of the story is after my last layoff in 2020 was this time of like, okay, what am I going to do? The first thing I did was take about 6 months off to really think about things. But then after 6 months, I joined a company that I had looked at for years. And I thought it was going to be this amazing company. It looked amazing on paper. It looked like a great match for me. And I got in it. And I can tell you, it wasn't a good fit. 9 months. I was there for 9 months. On paper, it looked like a wonderful job for my background and for people that are in the business. They're like, oh my gosh, you should be so happy. You have this amazing job. You have this amazing position. You get to travel to all the luxury spas and do all this. And if that was my purpose, I would have been happy with it.
Yeah.
You get wined and dined like a celebrity, but that doesn't fulfill me. So I was like, okay, I got to go. Once I decided to go, I realized, okay, with my husband nudging me a little bit, why don't you start your own business? And I thought, at first I had an imposter syndrome. I was like,
Of course.
do
Yeah.
I have enough to share? Do I know enough? Am I too young? Are people going to take me seriously?
Right.
Realized, gosh, my purpose is always to help other people see the potential in them when they haven't found it on their own. That's what I
Right.
love to do is help people uncover some of their strengths and help them see some of their blind spots when they haven't thought about it. And that is just super rewarding to me when I can see them living more fulfilling lives, not just at work, but at home. So that's what I do
Yeah.
now. I would say my top 3 areas in consulting are speaking. So motivational speaking, really focused on emotional intelligence. The second one is group coaching, most of the time virtual. And my third one is operational. So I will go into hotels or any other company and look at their processes for customer engagement, but it ties into employee engagement. So I know it's 3 different areas,
Right.
but at the end of the day, if I had to narrow it down, it's about people.
It's
That's
about
what my
people.
business is, right?
Yep.
My business is about doing things for people, with people, helping people realize their strengths and what they add to the table and how that ties into the processes. So it's all about relationships, it's all about building trust, and that
Hmm.
can translate into anything. So that's my long-winded answer to what I do.
No, I love it. And again, we're both John Maxwell team members, more specifically here in Arizona, which is awesome. And we met there and, discovered we have such an amazing journey that's so similar.
Mhm.
Listening to you talk about being laid off and then finding another position and realizing, oh my gosh, this is just not for me, and being encouraged and supported by your husband to just go on and do your own thing. I believe there's a lot of people that are listening to us today and watching us on our video podcast as well that would find some sort of strength to just take on the world. So today we're talking about overcoming, burnout and going beyond the hustle, because you were in an ideal position, as everyone said, but it wasn't always like that. Sitting in a nice executive position, leading people, making a good paycheck, having a little bit of the glamorous, moving at the fast pace. Your story of resilience started pretty early, growing up in Bogota during what was more like the Civil War,
Yeah.
commuting 3 hours to school, right? Again, so many parallels with me, and being the only kid to raise your hand when a teacher asked about divorced parents. That takes a lot of courage. I want you to share with us what those experiences taught you about standing strong when you feel alone.
That is such a great question, and out of all the different places where I have been interviewed, nobody's asked me those questions. So I so appreciate that you dig deep into getting to know me, even though you know me,
Yes,
you want to get to know me better and you want the audience to know me because that tells me that you truly care, but you also appreciate vulnerability. And that one
Absolutely.
is huge for me. I will follow a leader or a friend to the end of the earth if I know they're being truthful, right?
yes,
Even through hard conversations, it's okay. I'd rather actually hard conversations build trust and a lot more than people think they are. I think some of my resilience comes from seeing my mom get divorced at a very young age. Well, she had me when she was 21, and then my dad left when I was 7. So
Yeah.
I saw my mom go through a lot of different jobs to make sure that we had enough money to go to a really good school because education for her was paramount. So she
Yes.
wanted, even though I had to spend the 3 hours going to school, she's like, you need to go to that school because it's going to open doors for you. But I also
yeah,
saw at home just like such a strong woman that it was inspiring. So I think because of the Civil War, it taught me that there's a lot going on around you and you have to keep those close and really take advantage of the moments with family. So I grew up with a lot of love. Yes, I was an only child, but I grew up with my grandparents and my cousins, and it was a tough time in the country and there was a lot of fear, but we lived in this little bubble of happiness that no matter what happened, we somehow always survived. So sometimes Colombians will say that, especially those born in the 80s and 90s like myself, that like we just know it's going to get better. We don't know how, but it will. And that's what I truly believe in my heart of heart. Like I know it's going to be okay, even in the madness. And I think another example where I was resilient in a way that I didn't realize it is I've always just had this heart for growth and learning and pushing myself out there, even when I don't know what's going on. or I don't speak the language, I'm like, I'll try it. Like I'm not very embarrassed, right? And sometimes it has served me well. Other times it could be very bad, but at least I have a story to tell, right? But
Exactly. At least you tried it.
but one thing that you and I might also have in common that we really haven't talked about as much is, and I it took me all these years, even from 15 years old to now, to realize the impact now that I'm 44. So I've been in this country, more in Colombia, I was there till I was 15, and now I've been in this country twice as long. But
Right.
both are very important to my identity. But just now I realized, like, oh my gosh, my mom was also the only one that left Colombia in our entire family to move to the US. No one had ever
Oh.
left. So I realize now why my mom was in a certain way very perfectionist and very much like she was a strong lady, not in a bad way, but like perfection and excellence is like there's no, if you didn't reach excellence, you just didn't try hard enough.
It wasn't happening.
There was
Exactly.
no, like that wasn't an option. And I think it's because she was the only immigrant to come from the entire family. So they were all
Right.
looking at her and she was the oldest.
Towards her, yeah. Right.
And she was the
Right.
only oldest, and she had been the only one at that point that had been divorced, even when divorce wasn't even a thing in Colombia, it wasn't even legal yet.
Right?
Divorced my dad like 10 years later when it became legal, so they were just separated. But
Ah.
it's so weird. But yeah, I think it made her extra strong because she had all these unconscious pressure. And I also have
You
that
in
mentality
because you
of
inherited it.
exactly. I inherited, and I'm the only child, and why wouldn't I be successful? Right? Not as in an egotistical
That
way,
is just
but
being
more of
South American.
yeah, but more of as like, oh my gosh, like there's no way that I can't be successful. I have to be. More
Right.
of like, how can my mom gave me this opportunity to come here and I have all these resources. Why wouldn't I take advantage of them? Right.
Right.
So I think from that perspective, there's a lot of resilience in that. But one thing that didn't happen to me as much early on that I probably haven't shared with you is that I didn't fail as much. Like I didn't stumble and fail very young. I had a lot of successes. And
Yes.
I started having the challenges later on in my career. So I think because I didn't fail very much in a young age, or in my
How
mind I
you
didn't
did
fail,
the muscle.
when they happened,
Yeah.
they were a lot more impactful, right? Because it was like,
Yeah.
I'm doing everything I should. I'm working really hard. I'm getting up in the morning. I'm staying late at night. Why am I not getting the results that I've always been accustomed to? Like, what am I doing wrong? And I never
Exactly.
really questioned the system. I always questioned me.
Because that's all you know. With coming from your whole journey that you described, and someone here, quite a few people are listening and watching us, and they're like, "Yeah, that's me." So they're probably saying, "Angelica, are you saying that because I didn't have the struggles when I was younger. I was quote unquote more or less unprepared for struggles later." Yes, that's what we're saying. And that
Yes.
we're not saying that she had it worse than me or I had it. That's not how we're comparing it. We're telling you psychologically, it is a muscle. Resilience is a choice that you get to choose when presented with pressure. So
Yes.
if pressure is not there, you don't develop the muscle. Just as if you don't pressure your muscle with weights, the muscle won't grow and you won't get these little things that I'm now getting because I lift, right?
Yeah.
You push it is really solid, but that's because I'm applying pressure. So the pressure was not applied. So you're growing the muscle later in life, which is a little, which psychology says is more challenging to learn because you've already created a habit and pattern and a programming for all these 20 something plus years of your life. And now all this stuff starts happening.
Exactly. Like, exactly. It's almost like I had worked on other muscles, right? But
Yeah.
then I did this exercise with this machine where I was like, that muscle.
You blew it. Your muscle is like not, it's like doing leg day for the first few
Yes.
times in your life. You feel like you're going to throw up. You can't walk, you literally can't walk. You can't sit. You just don't want to live. You don't want to die,
You
but you
throw
feel
yourself
like
on the
your
toilet.
body left you.
You throw yourself on the toilet because you can't bend your
You're
legs.
like just plop.
And that
Here
was
it
what
comes.
happened to me. And what
Yes.
happened is in my mind, growth was always work harder, stay up later, do a little bit more than everybody else. And that I'm not saying that that doesn't work, but it's not a long-term strategy
Okay.
for happiness.
Yes.
Right.
Come
And I
on.
define, and I think it's important for me to define what happiness and success so that at least
Cute.
that the base and
Yes.
everybody on that watches our episode knows, okay, how is she defining this before we move forward? And it's happiness and success to me 20 years ago or even 15 years ago, I would have looked at them separately.
Mm.
I would have looked at success professionally, happiness home.
Wow.
Yes, where now I look at 'em like this. They're not competing, but they're completing each other,
Yes, it's a pie.
right?
It's like the rubric cube.
Yes.
It
It's
needs
all
all the parts gotta be there to be able to flow, right? Yep. Love it.
because what happens is many times we are taught, at least I was from an early age, is that if you're working really hard and you're suffering,
You're gonna be
you're
successful.
gonna be
That's the only
successful.
way to
Some
success.
Yeah, you gotta suffer. You gotta and you hear things like, "You gotta pay the price. You gotta pay your dues."
Yes. Yes.
Right,
Gotta put in the
and
work. If you don't put
yes,
in the work,
putting
you're
the work,
cheating.
suffer. Don't have a social life because you're gonna work 12 to 14 hours, and that was already a reality that I lived, but then I went into an industry like hospitality that it's not a 9 to 5 at
Mm.
all. It's kinda like an airport or a hospital, it's always open. Always, like, it never closes, and I was in operations, I wasn't in accounting that closes, or I wasn't in
No, that
sales.
was a 9 to 5 department.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was in
Yeah.
the departments that worked multiple
Keep
hours.
everything going. Yeah.
Yes, that you say, "Oh, you're the manager on duty. Husband, I'm gonna be coming home at 11 tonight." 3 in the
Yes.
still over there. So, it's not as a hospital in terms of, it's not life or death, but when you're in it, it feels like it, right? Because 'Cause you're so responsible and you're leading teams, and so I think I also put myself in an industry that was very hectic, and I
Mm-mm.
put myself also in some of those top companies, and here's another interesting thought in terms of mindset, in terms of happiness and success and growth that all go together really. Because I strongly believe if you're growing, you're happier and you will be more successful because you're happy. So it goes
Yes.
in that order, right? That's what I went for jobs in companies that because they were very well known, what happens in those companies, there's really nothing wrong with them, but I think it is important to note that when you go for companies that are very well known and successful, they have some leverage to
Mm.
be able to tell you you're going to grow a lot in this business, you're going to get this on your resume, so you pay the price in a way because they know that if you can't take it, there's 100 other people in line that want to.
I
So
agree.
so that's one of the things that I wouldn't do anything differently because every experience is a learning opportunity. I wouldn't change anything. But if I had to talk to new grads right now, I would say to them, don't always go for the biggest and the shiniest. Give smaller companies a chance too. You can learn
Mhm.
a lot, and don't always go for the top one because it doesn't mean that if you don't go for the top one, you're not as successful.
Exactly. Exactly. It's that's all those are all limiting beliefs again.
Yes. And I was like, I always thought, oh gosh, if I'm working as hard and if I am going to work for the top of the top, so I will be successful, but not
Yes.
and I say this again because I want our listeners to know that it's not an as an egotistical way, but more of a I am trying my best and I'm using my full potential and I can help others, right?
Right. Right.
But what I realized is that I moved up very quickly at a really young age, and I wasn't mature enough emotionally to handle a lot of the pressures.
Ooh, how many people are in those positions? And again, mature emotionally does not mean age.
Exactly. I'm so glad it does not mean age. So I moved from supporting maybe a group of 30, 40, I think at that time, to all of a sudden supporting 11 hotels. And
Mm.
in my mind, I thought, oh, great, growth. That means they saw potential in me. But I didn't see the danger of going from one hotel to 11 hotels to all of a sudden dealing one on one with the general manager of each hotel and those senior leadership teams at 26 years old. I didn't realize
You didn't have the bandwidth.
I didn't have the bandwidth. I didn't have the support. I didn't have the emotional or the wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to ask for help. I did not.
Mm.
So I was
Mm.
growing, and in my mind, I thought I was growing because I was moving.
Right. That, Angelica, that's where mm, I talk about that external locus of control. When your mark of success and growth was not coming from within, it was coming from outside. And what we don't realize, you're not alone. It is a programming that is taken on by the time we're about 1.5 to 2 years old. We are starting to be programmed. What is my mom say? So you're going to touch the stove and something tells you you shouldn't touch the stove, but no one's watching, so you touch it. Now you got burned.
Now you're like, don't do that again.
And you're just 2 years old, right? You're
Yeah.
already checking to see what people think and feel. And so I had a guest on here and she put it so well. Shoulds, your shouldas, and your shoulda and your shoulds. When your the whole word should, like once I start saying it, whether internally or I hear it out my mouth or I hear it come from someone else, I already start like picking up. It's like a spray.
Yeah.
It's like I'm getting the repellent because this is only going to go downhill for here, right? Because here's the thing:
Don't should, you're should.
if you did 11 hotels, then
Yes.
you should be ready
Ready. Exactly.
to handle these upper managers, right? You should be. If you've been working here for 5 years, then you should be. You should know. All a lie. If you live in a certain household, then you should know how it is to eat with a knife and fork. But no one taught you.
No, no, and you know what happened? You said it so well. They hired us because they were restructuring. So it was on top of being so challenging. I was the only one that came from an outside position. I didn't come from the quality team. So I was learning. I was one of 9 learning everything from scratch. And it was a change for all the hotels. So they didn't receive it well. So there were all these outside forces that were not in alignment. But all I kept saying to myself was, I should be able to handle this because I am ready. Instead of
Yes.
realizing I am not ready, do I really have the competencies? Does this running around make any sense for me at this time? And you get so hung up on if other people think I'm ready, then I should, right? And I wasn't ready. And there was many mistakes I'd made. I am glad those happened because I learned from them. But it was huge burnout because I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know how to ask for help. There was a lot of things that were within my control, but there was many others that were outside. And it's taken me years to really understand how could have I done it differently? What have I
Right.
learned from those? But it is a big that experience definitely marked what I understand now to be my growth mindset. And it's
Mm.
I look at growth differently now because I used to think growth was about running around, doing your to-do list, moving up the ladder fast because
Yeah.
I thought moving up the ladder fast meant that I was ready and I was contributing more. And then I realized when you get up to the top, you look around and you look at people that have a lot more years of experience and a lot greater titles, and you start learning about leadership, and you realize, no, everybody as humans has the same challenges, right? We all want to be heard.
Right.
We all want to feel special. We want to feel like we have a purpose. And so I started spending time with all these people. I started looking at behaviors and how interesting it is that sometimes when we think we're moving and making all these lists to do, we think we're growing. But in the end, in my opinion, growth comes from being intentional. Aside
Mm.
because we have our values and those dictate right what we think, what we feel, what we say.
Mm-hmm.
Those values dictate areas of growth, and then
Yes.
from growth we can determine many times we're growing and it is uncomfortable, but when we finish that growth, that big jump, we're happier, and that helps us feel successful from within. So
Yes.
instead of running around without purpose, we really need to be intentional about what we do. And if we're part of a company that is not honoring that. As hard as it is, we do have to question ourselves. How much longer do we want to be in that role if my needs aren't being met and I don't feel like I'm a good part of it, right? Regardless if everybody outside of us thinks, "How could you leave that job? That's amazing." You must be,
Yes.
but it's not
Right.
about the external validation. And that's what I had to learn hard way, that I was living too much in that external validation
Mhm.
instead of working from within.
Yes, I agree. Wonderful, man. Such a great segue into something that you also shared a little bit earlier, and that's those leadership blind spots. You shared that leaders are often promoted without the emotional tools that they need. So the
Mhm.
question I have for you is, why do you think emotional intelligence gets overlooked? What's the cost when it does?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. So I love that question because what happens is I find that in many companies, they don't want to talk about emotions. So as soon as they say emotional intelligence, some individuals that don't know about it are very turned off by emotions. I've even heard people say things like, no, we don't want to talk about emotions. We really want to just focus on our product line, or we want to focus on our processes, or we want to focus on our procedures. And I'm like,
Yeah, I don't do people, I do processes.
thing is, unless you can work with people, those processes and procedures aren't going to be successful, right?
Yes, they work
So many
themselves then.
times people will say, we don't really have time to talk about emotions. They're going to feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, they might feel uncomfortable at the beginning because they're not used to it. But I often say to people, are you the same person at home that you are at work? And sometimes they're like, no,
Mm,
I'm not. Or sometimes they say, yes, I'm actually not that same person. At home I behave differently, at work. And I'm like, but do your values change? They're like, "No, I'm still like," I'm like, "Do you cut your body in half and leave half over there and half here?" They're like, "No, I bring my whole body." I'm like, "Exactly. Back in the day, it used to be more like leave your home life at home, don't bring it into work." But as we've evolved, we've learned that no, you bring your whole self to work and we should honor it.
yes,
And that's what emotional intelligence is understanding that a human at work is a whole being, a whole holistic.
right.
That's the simplest way that I describe it. It's we have to take whether things happen at home, and some of the things that happen at work, they're also going to take it home. So we
Right.
understand them not just for what do they bring, how much we get out of this individual, but they spend more time at work than they do at home. So how do we make their lives better? And that is by
Mm,
understanding our emotions.
right,
And they're not as scary as they sound, right? It's just
exactly.
understanding, what are we feeling? Is it what does it mean to feel this way? Maybe I'm jealous of my coworker because they got promoted.
Mm,
They didn't promote me. Maybe I'm jealous because, or I'm upset and frustrated because my boss said something in a meeting that now I told myself a story and I think that my boss doesn't like me. All of these
yeah,
are emotions, but we often suppress them and not talk about them. And what emotional intelligence helps us do is recognize them, label them properly.
mm.
Many times it's only, we're happy or sad. That's the only thing I was taught when I was little. Just look pretty
Is it happy or sad?
and look pretty and happy. There's so much more to it, but yeah, and then after that is those blind spots that you said. What am I not good at? Maybe I'm not good at recognizing people's talents. Maybe I'm not good at having the tough conversations. Why not?
Mm,
And start digging into why not? Because the great thing about emotional intelligence is leaders, there's so much research, and I'm sure you've talked about in your show how much more successful in terms of numbers and keeping employees happy and keeping them longer with us when
mhm.
they are more emotional intelligence, when they can talk about their emotions, understand. I'm not going to say anything. I have that 1 second where I can say something really hurtful back to somebody. We all have those moments. But because I'm more emotional intelligent, this moment where I'm going to hold back and have a little bit of self control, which is one key component of emotional intelligence. And I'm not going to say it right now because I can't take it back once I hurt somebody.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
the short answer is we need to work on that because, especially with AI, there's so many that will be automated. But
Don't even start.
AI, I was on a podcast about AI recently. Yeah, AI
Uh-huh.
will make certain parts of our job a little easier, but
Easier, but it cannot replace humans.
it cannot replace empathy. It cannot replace that connection. It's not going to
Exactly.
replace that. So why not us get better at those parts, right?
Exactly.
That are going to make it
Exactly.
different. I have so many blind spots. I'll have to tell you many more, but there let me think of one recent blind spot. I am a very positive person, but my husband recently told me a blind spot of mine that I hadn't realized all these
Uh,
years. He said,
uh,
when you are not happy, in my opinion, I had to dig deep and go, okay, that means for me, when my needs are not met, I get very negative
mm, I do too.
over time. So I'm typically, it's so good. I'm not the only.
I just thought about it. I'm like, yeah, I get negative. I get weird.
So I'm like a super positive, happy, always see the glass half full, always see possibilities. I love seeing progress. I love seeing
Yep.
possibilities.
Yep.
I have strong extroversion tendencies and a very strong people focus, right? I always think, how is it going to affect the people first?
Over people,
My
right?
husband is the
Yeah.
opposite. He has introversion and he's more, how am I going to get this done? He's more task to me. When you're not in a good space, when your needs are not being met, you become very negative. And at first I was like in denial. I was like, I don't think so. Are wrong. I was thinking about it and I was like, you're right. I come home and sometimes I'm like, why is this here? Look at the island in the kitchen. We're out of this. What did we do here? Have you done this? And I'm like, oh my goodness.
That's the task oriented though, and those are your expectations. Yeah.
So I switch. You're right. I go from when my needs are not met in the human side, in the emotional area, I become, like you said, very task driven. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, let's get this done. And what is the impact? It can impact absolutely, especially over time. If it becomes a trend and I'm in
Compounds.
that funk and I'm not looking at myself deeper, it can cause a lot of havoc, right? Who wants to hang out with
Yes.
somebody that's like that?
Yes. Exactly.
So rest is a key. Rest, not just for the growth conversation that we talked about earlier, but for this, rest is a strategy. Sometimes you need
It's a
the rest.
superpower. It's a superpower.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really relates a lot to beyond the hustle that we're talking about, right? And it's for me, it used to not make sense to go to the gym to work out for an hour because I felt like I was wasting time. During that hour, I could get so much more work done. No, now I've been going to my hot yoga studio for 5 years and I've grown so much, not just in the discipline, but in the mind. And I've grown to learn so many benefits. But one of the biggest one is you take that hour away from you, but you literally are rebuilding and retraining your mind muscle, right?
Yes. I love that. I love that. I love that. Love that. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the cost of overcommitting though.
Oh, yes.
What is yeah, what is that cost beyond just time? Because again, like you said, you're taking it. What is the hardest boundary that you've ever had to set to keep yourself within that time that you're not, you know,
Yes.
people say wasting your time or overdoing it, so to speak, overcommitting and just letting things or people and tasks get all piled up in there and then you're out of whack. How do you
That is a great question, especially because once you identify your blind spot, you have a choice. You either ignore it and dig it deeper in the sand, or you go, "Oh crap, that is something I need to work on, and I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to not ignore it anymore." So I have a couple, which is that will lead into my answer. So one is typically I think things take a lot less than they do, a lot less time and effort
Mhm,
than they do. And
mhm.
because I'm a perfectionist, but it comes not from the fear of mine doesn't come from the fear of looking incompetent, but it comes from I want to give my all. And if I have more time, then I will do better.
Yes.
So it's so what I'm getting at is one that it's definitely has cost me, and I know you said not time, but this ties into it, is I think, "Oh gosh, I'm
Time
gonna
as
run this
well.
errand."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, "I'm gonna run this errand," or "I'm gonna answer this email," and it always takes longer. So I've had to train my brain to think. I've had to change my
Realistically. Yeah.
realistically, Angelica, is it's not gonna take us long. It's gonna take longer than you anticipate. And I'm constantly struggling with that. Is it something and I want our listeners and viewers to realize it doesn't go away because you're a coach and you help others. It
As
does
a matter of fact,
not,
if you ask me, it rains more.
because you know you should have done better, right? And then you feel
No,
guilty
it
about
just
it.
you just because now you're accountable for other people's progress. You take it on you take it to heart. You're also a lot of us coaches are we're empathetic by nature, and we're also A personalities that want to cross all our I's, dot all our T's. We also strive for excellence in every area, and we always want to over deliver for the people
Yeah,
that we're responsible for.
you
That's
are
a
so you
that is
nailed
the
it.
entire framework for a catastrophic boundary setting human.
A non-boundary setting. And you remind me, I have a class next week
Ah,
for a volunteer group that I help. And my
yeah.
class is about boundaries. And that's exactly what we're
Nice.
talking about right now, because the other one that you mentioned briefly now is we don't want to let people down because we love people. We want to support.
Right.
But what I have learned in this journey of being burnt out is, and learning through the blind spots and some of those aha moments or some of those times that I didn't do my best is I
Hmm.
didn't do my best because I wasn't my best at that time. I couldn't think clearly. I didn't give my mind, and my mind might have said keep going, but my
Right.
body, there's a huge connection between mind and body, right?
Yes.
My
There's
body
no way outside of it.
Right? My body was telling me, "Angelica, slow down. You need the rest." And I'm like,
Mm,
"Don't worry. I got it. Hang on." So there is that. So because I don't want to disappoint people, because I love people, not
mhm.
necessarily because of what they're going to think about me, but more of I want to give them what they deserve because they deserve great.
Right.
So sometimes that what has caused me in the past is uh-uh. I can't give him the best. And I've
Right.
definitely changed. Some of my boundaries are very specific, and I look at boundaries as self-love. Don't as self-discipline. Many times when we have kids, we think discipline is a hard thing, but it's self-love, and the discipline is with myself, right? I
Yes.
have to do what's best for me, and the boundaries have to protect my energy. I switched
Mm,
9 years ago to thinking about my energy. Who am I around that's really adding value to me?
mhm.
Or who is sucking the life out of me? Like, just because somebody wants to meet with me when I'm doing a visit at a property doesn't mean that that's the best value for them or for me. And what can I say? I want to make sure this is very specific so the audience can really understand. Boundaries is not just saying no. There's so many more ways to add boundaries, right? Like
Yes.
for me, I learned after many years not to answer emails between like 7 and 9 when I'm having dinner with my family. And
Mhm.
the world can come to an end. If they really need me, they will call,
Figure it out too.
right? They will
Yeah.
figure it out. And there was always times where I would come out to rescue others. And I had to learn to set the boundaries that if I don't allow others to do it their way, especially with team
Hmm.
members, I need to allow them to fail or to make
Yes.
mistakes because I
Yes.
know I've been on the other side, and they will learn and grow from it instead of me having to do it. And that's
Yes.
part of my boundary is I have to help others grow even if it's not the way that I would have done it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's something I live by. I just have to sit back and love them and support them and let them do what they do. Watch them trip. I mean, it's like when you're teaching your child how to ride a bike, you
Yes.
literally for the first while you're going to be there over them, but at some point you have to let go of that handle
Yes.
and hope that
And
when they
hope is
take
not
off.
always a good strategy, but
Right.
sometimes it is.
But when you let go, they're gonna keep pedaling and they're gonna hold on and steer that bike and keep themselves from falling flat on the pavement and busting up everything. Yes, you put helmet on, but that is love. True love knows how to let go, right? And so when you whether it's a romantic love, relational love, where it's the people you serve, and you're gonna have to let people do what they do. And when they are ready, right?
When they're
You're
ready.
there. Now, the truth of the matter is sometimes they're ready and you're not available. And that's what you were saying earlier. I'm not available, but they'll find the next guy.
They'll find somebody. Yeah.
Because, I mean, it just dawned on me when I suffered burned out in the corporate world, they found me behind my desk. and had to rush me to the hospital. I ended up being there for over a week. Suffered almost a heart attack. Um,
My gosh.
and I was laying in that hospital and they won't let me go. And I was watching church from the hospital room and realizing the worship session went on just fine without me. Youth service, they dismissed the youth on Wednesday night and the youth went to the other side of the building and they had youth service without me. My staff, the kids were dropped off at the school every day and the teachers taught them and they went home and everybody got their paychecks and
Yes.
the door was never left open and people went in and robbed this. Everything was, and yet here I was on the hospital bed.
And the whole world kept moving, and there you are.
So I came out the hospital a different woman. And guess what? Of course, when I come back, they start acting like the world stops moving now that I'm back.
They were like, "We forgot what to do without you."
Now you're setting these boundaries and it's a hard time. And you wish you could go back in your mother's womb and start setting boundaries right now because it's harder to do it later. And so you
It is
you
hard
talk
later.
yeah, you talk about the truth about growth without hustle. What is that truth? And how can leaders truly embrace it without feeling like they're falling apart
I
or
honestly,
just failing and falling behind,
yeah,
whatever it
I
looks
really
like?
thought about this a lot. I think the only way to really know that is to start with self-awareness. I think,
I love that.
and you mentioned it earlier. You said sometimes we look outside and the outside becomes the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
We have to look from within. Like, what is my value? So, my value is
Mm,
truly value family. I'm going to put some boundaries around that for my work, right? And I'm not going to be as afraid if I'm really honoring my values and I know who I am and I'm confident in myself. I'm going to look for jobs and I'm going to have those conversations right from the start instead of waiting like I did, waiting till you move up and then your family becomes like secondary. Like, don't worry, I'll just,
right,
or I
right.
have to take this call, or I can't do this because I'm going into work. And it doesn't, I think one of the biggest ahas for me is it shouldn't make you feel guilty if you're
Right.
truly honoring who you are. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that was a big one for me is like, first I have to start from within. Like, who am I? What do I want? Why am I afraid if I leave this job? What, like you said, they're gonna be fine. They're gonna find somebody else. But more importantly, what is it going to fulfill me, right? What how do I can only get rid of the guilt and the shame if I
Yeah,
know who I am.
yeah,
Nobody can do it from the outside. No company, job, promotion, title, money could ever fulfill what's within, but we have to first uncover who we are. And that takes some
agreed.
that's
Yes.
the time. But I do think like one of the things that you mentioned that ties with what we're saying is the boundaries and growth. They go hand in
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I can tell you that one of the boundaries I'm working on right now, personally, because it's a never, just to share with the audience that it never finishes. The
Right.
work is not finished, but you should never think of it as, oh gosh, why start it if it's never finished? No, it's just an ongoing opportunity to know
Continuum. It's
yourself.
not yeah, it's a continuum. Yeah, it just continues.
And one of the boundaries I'm working on right now is expectations. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
my expectations of myself are so
Mm,
harsh,
mm-hmm.
are very, very harsh.
Yes.
While I think I mentioned this a tiny bit at the beginning, while I give a lot more grace to everybody else.
Right.
So where does that come from? And does it really serve me well? No,
Yeah.
it doesn't always serve me well because then
Nope.
I think sometimes I used to think back in the day that I don't deserve the rest when the rest is exactly what you need. And I had to switch that mindset from absolutely I deserve the rest.
Yes. I agree. Yeah, I deserve the
So,
rest. And
yes,
I'm at this point. What I had to do was say it's a requirement. So I get up every day and I gotta eat, right? I get up every day and at some point I gotta go to the bathroom. I have no other choice but to. And I'm not talking about your 8 hours. When she talks about rest, we're not talking about your 8 hours sleep. We're talking about just not doing, not overthinking, not being in the grind, not being in the paint, not fixing for someone. Just be with
yes,
yourself. whether you decide to go out in nature, drink a cup of coffee, drink a glass of wine, whatever that looks like for you, just be. And for someone like me, it's easier to call me at 2 in the morning to go run a marathon. I'm probably gonna fall halfway and then to tell me to rest, to just do nothing. That feels like you're asking me to, walk on top of my head.
It just doesn't feel comfortable because it's not
No,
in our nature. And it feels to me, it used to feel lazy.
it does.
Like,
If y-
why am I
everything
resting?
you everything you said earlier about how you were raised with your mom having those expectations and by default you inherited that character trait and it became part. That's me. Like, I'm going to say I'm resting and I'm not doing any work. And then what I'm doing is I'm starting to like, oh, let me flip my bedroom around. Let me change the curtains. What
Yeah.
is wrong with you? You just can't sit there and flip the television screen. Like,
Yeah.
you got to find something intense to do. Like right now, this clean house needs cleaning.
No, and sometimes it's our task that we need to do it, but sometimes you know what? One that is really hard for me, the rest in my mind, as in not doing, but thinking.
Not good luck with that one.
That one is why I go to hot yoga. One of the things I love about hot
Right.
yoga is I'm so focused on the poses that my
Yes.
brain has no time to think
To
about,
be involved in stuff. Yes.
oh my God, I have, and she always says that the teachers usually says, you have nowhere else to be but here. I'm like, are you sure?
Because, girl, I could cook dinner from now. It's 11 in the morning, but I'm already cooking dinner. I've already been to Kroger's and Fry's, and I've gotten all the things, you know.
Kroger, you said Kroger from Ohio. Yeah,
Oh, my God. Oh,
you're right. There's a Kroger
we
in
don't
Ohio.
have Kroger's here.
We have fries, but you're right. It's the same brand.
Bad, but I've spent time in Ohio and now I'm buying into Kroger's. But
Right.
it's so important. Oh my goodness. Flip the
Really
script. I can't
fries.
believe time went by so quickly. So
Oh my.
Angela, flip the script is where you get to tell us a time when you had to completely change your approach. What was that mindset shift and how did it change your outcome?
Oh my gosh. This is a great one. You've asked me such great questions. And please know that a lot of these things, she just comes up with them like now. Oh,
Yeah, we don't pre-script it. No.
very
No. Yeah, we don't talk
um,
about it.
but I was thinking because I enjoy growth and without the hustle is one of the things that I have started to do the last 2 to 3 years, especially, is
Mhm.
how do I flip the switch? How do I change my mindset? I'll give you one. So I don't want to keep you too long, but one that's very important. Instead of measuring success or growth as productivity, as doing as output,
Mm.
I am starting to measure it as investing in relationships and
Mm.
collaboration, which
Oh, I
I had
love.
never looked at it that way until recently. Was like,
That's abundant.
yes, it's like my natural tendency is to pour into people. So why am I not measuring that as the output for growth, happiness, and success? Why am I focusing on the task when everything I'm preaching is on the emotional relationship? And I had this
And
big
being.
disconnect, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I wanna really, really live what I preach. I wanna be
Yeah.
vulnerable and authentic, and I thought, doesn't mean that getting things done is not important, that's not what I'm saying. We all have to get things done, but don't use the tasks that you complete on your to-do list as your recipe for happiness
Yes.
or your recipe for growth because it has to be intentional. But what about measuring, "Hey, today I spent time with Dr. Alisa, and this important and we got to know each other even better before we
Yes.
started the podcast." That is a
Yeah.
win. That is
Right.
that is growth. And it's
Yes.
not just I participate in a podcast, check it off the list. No, but that can translate into your work as a leader,
Yes.
in your teams, as a leader in your home. Are you having those conversations with your spouse? I know it's hard. Sometimes it is really hard for me. I do a much better job of talking to my daughter than sometimes having deep, good conversations with my husband.
You want to just avoid it and keep everything cheery and going.
We focus on the let's make sure we get laundry done and dinner and this and
Yeah.
but those are not the things that will keep a marriage working well on all
Right.
cylinders. So my flipping the switches, be willing to switch your mindset. Be willing to look at the blind spots as not an embarrassment, but an
A
opportunity
growth
to work
opportunity.
thing.
I love
Because
that.
at the end of the day, growth is not supposed to be always painful. And I look at it as a stepping stone for happiness, as opposed
Yes,
over here and over here. When I will tell you one last example, even though I said that wasn't good, but I got
I
excited.
love it. You got it. It's your show. Go for it. No, it is. I get to be a part of your show on your day. Trust me, it's
Oh,
how it's
thank
built
you.
to be.
Well, I
We're
am.
learning and gleaming from you.
Thank you. And I put this on LinkedIn without really thinking that I was going to share it with the group today, but I said that one of my I call it my BS, my
Belief
belief
systems.
system. And I said
And also your BS. It's
in my
both.
and also when my husband said to me, "You should start your business. I will support you financially." I mean, anybody that has that opportunity would think, "Duh, wonderful, Angelica, you have a supported husband. You're able to
Yeah.
make ends meet with, with one income. Yes, we had to make some adjustments, but wonderful, take it." And I absolutely took it, but I was very hesitant because from my mom growing up, I wanted to be a strong, independent woman. And unconsciously, my mindset from an early age told myself, you don't
Mhm.
need to depend on a guy. You don't need to depend on a partner.
Yep.
Doing it yourself. So even though
Yep.
he was supporting me financially and emotionally during that period, it was really hard to get used to it. So I had to ask myself, am I scared of not having money in the relationship? No. Am I scared that he's going to act differently if he's the only one? No. Am I afraid to lose my independence and my freedom? Maybe a little bit. Does being a breadwinner become part of my identity and my worth? Maybe. So
Mm.
I had to dig into some of those questions. And the last thing I'll say is you have to question your story and you have to
Mm.
question your story. Does it really serve me? No, that is something. I am not my mom. I am not living the circumstances that she lived. So why do I have this very strong narrative that is really wrong and doesn't serve me well now? I need to get rid of
Mhm.
it.
Right. That's how you disrupt the limiting belief. Exactly. And find the proof. Where is the proof? They say it's in the pudding, but you haven't even made the pudding. I love
So
it. I love it. I love it. Angelica, we are at Mindset Bites to Go. It's where you leave our listeners with one mindset takeaway they could start practicing today. What would that be? And of course, you got to tell us about this free coaching giveaway that you have for us and how we can connect with you.
oh my gosh, there's so much to say about mindset, right? And again, for me, it goes back to self-awareness. So
Yes.
mindset is a powerful thing. One of my favorite quotes is be careful what you believe and what you think because not everything you think is true. So be careful what you think because not everything you think is true or real. So I
Yes.
would challenge the audience and myself in the process to say that just because I think something, it doesn't mean it's real. I have
Mm.
to question the story and I have to question my mindset with curiosity. I have to ask more questions. Sometimes I'm annoyed at a friend or I'm annoyed at a coworker, I'm annoyed at my husband. But once I start digging deeper, I realize that it wasn't anything I should have been annoyed with because I wasn't even. So our mind can run wild. Be
Yeah.
careful what you feed it. And if you are feeding it things that don't serve you, make sure that it is actually real. I know when I was burned out and when I suffered from severe depression, my mind wasn't in a good place. So I needed to be careful what I thought and what I
Mhm.
said and what I did because I wasn't in the best place. When you're in the moment, you think you are.
Right.
Afterwards, you look back and you're like, oh, no. So
Mm-mm.
that would be one piece of advice. But yes, I would love to give two listeners that can comment on your show and make some. I'm going to pick them randomly. I have two 1 hour free coaching sessions. And hopefully, I get to know
Wow.
these individuals very well that want to grow and learn more about themselves. It would be a privilege and a huge honor for me to have two individuals spend an hour each.
That is so generous. An hour can change everything. We know that from listening just to the podcast. So that is, oh, you heard it, guys. Angelica is giving you all 1 hour of free coaching. to disrupt limiting beliefs, help you set yourself in a pathway of emotional intelligence, and set a framework that helps you thrive above the hustle. I'm telling you, y'all are lucky.
Please comment. The more specific you comment, the more you share, the more
Yes.
excitement,
Yes.
more likely you'll be picked.
Exactly. So she'll be looking to see those people. So I know that Mindset Mastery 360 community is gonna jump on it. So y'all
Oh,
better jump
good.
in early. y'all,
I'm
so y'all
excited.
better jump in early. For all the people who are not listening, they will be first. They're already waiting for the new episodes to come out every week. So you're gonna have to hurry in there. Well, Angelica, your story is absolutely proof that growth doesn't require burnout. I mean, most of us really, like you said, you started off sharing that it was a mindset, a belief system that you had already, a pre-programming. You said that it requires intention. That's just absolutely so powerful. Thank you for reminding us that self-awareness is an important strategy in our toolbox in our life as we move around. And for everyone listening, Angelica's information is in the show notes. And if you're ready to rethink your growth without hustle, reach out, make that comment. If you don't make the two picks, you can always try to get on our calendar and schedule a time, a strategy call with her. Angelica, what is your favorite way for the audience to connect with you?
Best way is I am on Instagram as I am Angelica Ponder. I am on LinkedIn as well. Those are the two. My website is angelicaponder.com, but right now it's getting a little facelift. So wait a few more weeks until you get on.
So until next time, disruptors, remember that your mindset is the key to your success. And as Angelica taught us today, that being successful and winning does not necessarily require burnout. Till next time, keep mastering your mindset. I'm Dr. Alisa Whyte. Think, speak, do become. My co-host, Angelica Ponder, and I say we'll see you later.
See you later. Adios.
Bye, everyone. Adios.